How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today's video is a one that's been heavily requested, to be fair. Obviously I've done the insurance talk on my Range Rover Velar, but I haven't spoke about how much it costs to insure myself as a 23-year-old on a new Audi A5 Sportback S-Line. So that's the full name of the car for you, so you know. It is the 35 TDI or TFSI, whatever Audi's wording for it is, model. So it is the lower engine model. Obviously it's a brand new car, first owner, and I obviously insure myself on the Range Rover as well as this car. So a lot of people were asking, how much does it cost, how do I afford to insure myself, and what are the quotes like, and do I get some sort of discount for having two cars or more? So I'm going to go into all of that in this video for you. So this car is don't quote us, but for the sake of arguments, about £45,000 to buy. Obviously haven't bought the car. I've mentioned before it's on a lease deal, on a financed lease deal, so that doesn't really matter, but the car's value is, just for argument's sake, we'll say 45 grand. I can't tell you the exact amount. I know it starts at 42,000 or 41,000, and there is a few things this car's got as optional extras. I can't tell you how much they cost and what the overall on the road price of the car would be, as they call it. So for argument's sake, we're just going to say 45 grand, 70 plate. I'm the only owner. I have no named drivers on the car, it's just me. I obviously put in my insurance that I do drive another vehicle. You don't ever have to disclose what that vehicle is. You can if you go into more in depth with an insurance company, but in terms of just putting it on like compare the market or whatever to find quotes, you don't have to say what else you drive. You just have to say you do drive another vehicle or have access to another vehicle. I have no points on my license, no convictions, and I have just recently hit 5 years no claims, but on this insurance policy it's down as only having 4 years, so getting another 5th year, and I would have been 22 at the time of getting insured on this car. So we'll go from 22 years of age and 4 years no claims, with obviously no convictions, no points. And I put it through all the quotes, saying where I lived. Obviously I live in Newcastle and I live in London, so I'm in London 90% of the time and Newcastle maybe 10 or 15% of the time. But depending on where I'm going to keep the car and where I want to register the car to, the price changes. So when I say the car is going to stay with us all the time at my house in London, the first quote that came back on the car was, I think, £1,414, which is a nice round number, but £1,414 to say I live where I live in London, in West London, and I was going to keep the car during the day on the street outside the house or at work, which is in a fully secure camera, can't get in there without a permit car park in the centre of London. It's one of the most secure car parks you can probably put a car in. Obviously you don't tell your insurance company what car park it goes in, but yeah, it was in a pretty secure place. If I wanted to go and tell them where it was going to be, it might bring the price down a bit more. But the whole thing was it's going to be on street parking at my address in London, and the fact that it's in London, it's a new car, it's a high value car to some people, that changed the price of my insurance up to £1,400 a year, or I think it worked out about £160 a month, because you pay a little bit more if you pay monthly rather than annually. So £1,400 is where this car came out as a 22-year-old, 4 years no claims, no points and convictions, to insure yourself on an Audi, a brand new Audi. Then you put the car through. I put the car through living in Newcastle and registering the car in Newcastle, which would obviously mean, for the sake of the insurance and also covering my back, the car would have to stay in Newcastle more often than not and be registered to that address. So if I was to register the address in Newcastle but use it as a daily driver in London, and then I got into an accident, the insurance company would more than likely say, why is the car in London for a start? And if I turned around and said, oh, I live down here and this is where the car stays, that'll bring up a lot of complications with the insurance and probably avoid it. Or they'd say, well, you owe us X amount of money because you effectively lied on your insurance about where the car was staying for the majority of its time. So it would throw up that altercation of the car would sort of have to be in Newcastle and used as a daily in Newcastle. Don't get us wrong, I could drive it wherever I want, but it would have to spend the majority of its time based in Newcastle, and I would probably have to spend the majority of my time living or being based in Newcastle, which I'm obviously not. But just to see the difference in prices when I put it through the calculator or the quotes finder on Go comparing some other sites, the best deal I found was, I think, just shy of £800. It was high 700s. I can't remember if it was 789 or 799. Either way, we'll just say it was £800. So that's £600 cheaper, nearly half the price, just to say the car was going to be registered in Newcastle, and saying the car was still going to be parked on street, and during the day I just put it was going to be parked in a car park again. Obviously I don't work up north, so I put it in as if I was going to be working up north in Newcastle. It would have been parked in a car park either way, or in some sort of establishment if I was working up north. So yeah, the difference in price between insuring a car in London, West London, and then insuring a car in Newcastle, not even in the city centre. I live 10 minutes outside of the city centre. It still saves you about £600. You obviously just have the issue of you're not actually living in London all the time or Newcastle, so you've always got to be as honest as you can be with the insurance company, because any slight differentiation when you're making a claim from your original policy, and I've heard horror stories of insurers saying, oh, you told us this, whereas it's actually slightly different, so we're going to void your policy and we're not going to pay out, we're not going to fix your car, and it's all on you, you're going to lose your money basically. So yeah, you've definitely got to make the right decision with your insurance, tell them everything and keep it as honest as you can and as accurate as you can, no matter how much it costs difference wise, to say it might be in one place or another, or kept in a different place overnight. But that just shows the difference in sort of crime levels and the economic differences between Newcastle and London, to obviously make the price of insurance a lot higher, nearly double the price. So yeah, that answers that question. Oh, one thing I left out on that sort of running a quote through is I always set my voluntary excess originally at 0. If I can, being 23, I can still count as a young driver. Until you're 25, I think you're classed as a young driver. So most insurance companies will have a compulsory excess of say £500, and then have a young driver compulsory excess of another £100 or £200 on top of that. And then worst case, which luckily I didn't have to do with this car, but with the Range Rover, some insurance policies have another excess depending on the value of your car. So if your car is valued at over 50 grand, say, they'll throw another excess price onto it if you were to make a claim, just so they're getting more money from you, I suppose. But for these two quotes, I put it down as 0 for voluntary, and none of them came back letting us have 0. I think the best one I got was 250 excess, but it was about £1,000 a year, and then £500 excess to have 790 or 800. So for the sake of £200 difference, you were getting a less excess, but you might as well pay less premium in a year hope you never crash or never have to make a claim, and you've saved £200 rather than not pay the extra £200-300 a year and then not even need the claim, and then you've had a lower excess for no reason. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, that is what this car costs to run. I don't get any sort of benefit from doing multi-car. I did try to go through the same insurance company who I was with on the Range Rover, which is Admiral, and say, can I insure both of them for a better price? And they basically said no, because of the values of the car and because I'm too young, and because I did want to differentiate where I was keeping the cars. I wanted to say I was going to have one in London and one in Newcastle, staying at my family address. And obviously multi-car is the same policy at the same house, so it became a bit of an awkward difficulty to the point where it was like, yeah, it's not going to work out. And if I was keeping them both in the same place, it really wasn't much cheaper than doing them separately. So I don't even think it was cheaper. I think it worked out more expensive to do them as a joint thing rather than separately. So yeah, I kept them separate, and with two different insurance companies on two different cars that are registered in two different places. So it is a bit of a admin jumble, but it saves us money in the long run, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I don't ever need a claim, and I'm not in pocket as such, but I'm saving myself money on what I would be paying should I have needed a claim or have a policy that covers two cars at once. So yeah, that is the story of insurance behind this car. Obviously I've got another video on the insurance of the Range Rover. I've insured that for 3 years, so 2 years, and I came up with my 3rd year, so that's got a bit more in-depth of insurance on a Range Rover. Obviously the Audi's worth less, but it's newer. I don't know how they work it out. They seem to just throw numbers together and say pay it or don't pay it, and you're not being insured. But yeah, if you want to watch that video, I'll leave it in the description below, or a pinned comment, or I'll put a banner at the top of the page. So yeah, drop this video a like if you found it helpful or interesting. Go watch the other one so you know even more about how much money I spend to insure my cars. And yeah, I hope this answered people's questions on how I go about insuring two cars, how much it costs, and the difficulty that I can throw up trying to insure two different cars. So yeah guys, thank you for watching. Drop a like, leave a comment, feel free to subscribe if you want, but thank you for watching the video, and hopefully I'll catch you all in the next one. Cheers.